when I was at school, you go careers teacher.
Yeah.
You know, and this is normally somebody who has never had any other career apart from being a teacher.
Yeah. So they're really well placed to advise,
Oh,
aren't they?
tremendously. And I'd put a list down, you know, what do you want to do? And I'd put a few things, you know, pilot. One of the things came back to me actually a few years ago was I had actually put advertising copywriter down.
Really? Right.
Because I enjoyed English, and so I put advertising copywriter down. I've forgotten about that, and since then I have written quite a lot of copy, as one does in our industry. So you went to see a careers teacher, and it was, you know, I found, and they're sort of looking at you, you know, you may as well put lion tamer down. And they said, well, you know, because they're used to saying which pit do you want to go down, or which shipyard you're going to work in, you know, or which branch of the armed forces are you going to join. That was your career's choice, basically. That was, you know, and that would be 1978, 79, when they were saying, you know, the best career you could have is in the shipyards of the NCB, or
that's the job.
Save as houses, job for life. I kind of came out of it saying I was going to go in the forces. My dad had done a stint in the forces and in the reserves. My grandfather had been in the army. My uncles had all been in the RAF. So I was going to go in the forces, you know, see the world, etc. I had a couple of mates in the forces, and that was the plan. I was going to go for a commission, you know. Always go for the money. I was going to go for a commission in the armed forces, and I had a Saturday job in a local department store. So that was probably my first. I was flogging electrical equipment.
Right. Got your taste for sales and marketing.
Something like that. Yeah. I learned a lot, mostly what you shouldn't do, but yeah. When I went to sixth form, I'd been to an all-boys school for years, and the school went co-educational, so I was slightly less interested in the academic side. In fact, it'd be fair to say I'd become a sort of social member of the sixth form rather than a... So they asked me to leave, if you wouldn't mind awfully leaving. So I got a job in retail kind of that day. And this was 1980, and there weren't a lot of jobs. And I could see at this job in retail, lovely people, again, learned a lot about sales, learned a lot about people, but I could see that wasn't a long term.
Yeah.
And the plan was that I'll join the forces, but I need to get some exams. I had Wednesdays off, I pestered the careers office, and eventually it got me, they said, what about accountancy? I didn't know anything about accountancy, but I knew it was a profession, so I said, yeah. So I went along to these two interviews. And one firm had just started up, and it was an amazing guy called Tom Paul. He had been a senior manager for one of the big local accountancy firms. He took a shine to me. I really took a shine to him. He's a great guy. So I joined him. And he, you know, from 16, trained me up. I was there a year and a half. Then I went to local authority because I get day release for my exams. And then still intending to go in the forces, and he had joined what was then Inland Revenue Inspector of Taxes as a direct entrant, done his 3 years training, and then gone back in. And I thought, you know what, I'll do what he did.
Right.
So while that was going on, I thought, well, you know, if I'm going into the forces, I'd better get a taste of forces life and get a bit of it on my CV. I tend not to have just a single motivation for anything. I tend to have 2 or 3 reasons why I do something, you know, nothing simple. So I thought, and I could make a bit of cash, because in the public sector, you got paid leave to go in the reserves.
Oh, I see, right.
So not only did you get paid leave from the public sector, but you also got army pay, so you got double bubble. And then you got a tax-free bonus at the end of the year. And obviously you got, you know, 3 pair of green trousers. So I thought I'll give that a go.
No-brainer, really, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. I joined what was it called, a CVH, Central Volunteers Headquarter Unit Regiment, which it wasn't your normal sort of Tuesday evening thing. It was a nationally raised regiment of ex-regulars and special skills. To this day, I don't know what my special skill was. I honestly, you know. no idea what my special skill was, but for some reason they took me and they trained me. So I spent 3 years doing that.
Right.
And at the end of it, I'd learned a lot. I'd learned an awful lot about myself, what I was capable of. The basic training, because we were training with the regulars, was tough. I mean, it wasn't, the soft option. It was tough, very tough, and
I can almost see you going back now.
Yeah.
How tough it was.
I mean, my drill instructor was had just transferred out of the Grenadier Guards,
Right.
and he was world pace stick champion. And if you've been in the forces, you know what a pace stick is and what it does and what it can be used for. And this was, these were the days when, there was beasting, and it wasn't, excuse me, would you mind awfully doing this? It was fairly rough. And it was only afterwards, actually, because I decided after 3 years that I was progressing well in my career. There were certain aspects of the forces I didn't like. Certain attitudes around race, gender, certain approach to life that didn't sit well with me. And so I decided, now, what I have to say is I probably did have a slightly jaundiced picture of the forces, because I did my basic training at Deep Cut.
Really? Right.
Which we then found out all about, So to be fair, I've got a lot of time for the armed forces. I've worked with a lot of ex-forces guys. They're amazing. It's an amazing training. It does teach you to think in a different way. I don't regret for 1 minute the time I spent there.
But it's not for everyone.
But I decided that for me, based on what, some of the things I'd seen, I didn't really want to progress it, and certainly not as an officer. And by that time, my career kind of taken off. I joined the civil service. I'd become a direct entrant, TUHG executive officer, and the career was jogging along. So I decided to pursue that, and then I did my 3 years training. I decided to move on. It was 1987. The Big Bang had just happened. I considered going back into accountancy with an accountancy firm, but then I met a guy. I went to an interview with a guy called Ken Lowes. Again, probably my second biggest influence or mentor. And Ken took a shine to me. I liked him, liked what he said, liked what the firm did. So I went into the sort of fairly new field of independent financial advice and fund management, that as a tax and technical manager. And it was great. It was much broader than what I covered in the revenue. Really enjoyed it. Liked the guys there. Really warmed to them. Liked the environment. And I got some great opportunities. Having left school at 16, the first thing I did when I got into the profession was start to study for professional exams. And then obviously I did my taxes internal exams, and then when I got to Lowe's, I started to do a set of exams there, and it made me a convert in lifelong learning. I still am. Mm-hmm. There was an opportunity. Our then financial director had a breakdown. There was some issues needed solving. I was asked, because I had an accountancy background, could I step in temporarily? And I thought, do you know what, I quite fancy this. So I pushed on the exams, I knuckled down, put the hours in. I was appointed financial controller, and then I was made financial director when I was 20, I might be in 27 now. Right. I might be in 29, I think I was 27. I was really into that career path, really enjoyed it, financial services, etc. But there were certain things happening in the when I joined a week before the October financial crash.
Right.
And so I went through that whole, with the firm. You get to about 7 years in a career, and you start to think, is this what I want? Is this it?